Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio. I am your host, Ed Dentzel. I hope everybody's having a great week. My allergies are still giving me some problems, but today, for some reason, I seem to feel a little less foggy than usual. Dare I say it, this is usually around the time when my allergies start to ebb away, so I'm hoping that's what's going on. I hope that this continues because blowing my nose and taking Claritin and hacking and mucus, I've just had enough of it. And it's weird how it comes on. And I think if you've been listening to the show for a while, I had allergies when I was in Las Vegas, got there, didn't have any. They built up to the point where I would get asthma, once again, right around this time of the year in Las Vegas, and then the last few years I lived there, they kind of went away, as if my body adapted. Came here to Florida, they came back, and so I've been here 4 years, and every year around this time, it's bad. In fact, 2 years ago, during the Super Bowl night, 2 years ago, early February, I thought I was going to die. I really thought that this asthma just kicked in, and I was thinking I was going to have to go to the emergency room or something. Now, it hasn't been bad this year, but it's still been a little struggle, and you've heard it on this show. But today, kind of feeling like the old Ed without taking any Claritin, so I hope that's a step in the right direction. I have a fascinating show for you today, or tonight. I'm recording it today, you're listening it tonight. Of course, we have a debate that's going to go on tonight. You'll know what happens by the time that you listen to this show. But I want to talk about some other things because debates, what can you say? Cruz Rubio got to hit Trump hard, but we're going to be talking about that, but not in relation to the debate. I want to take a look back today at how we got here. How did we get here to the point, not so much about delegates, but all of the rancor and arguing that's going on amongst people who have agreed with each other for years? Maybe we need a little refresher course. And maybe I need to explain what I thought was going to happen, going back to last summer when Trump jumped in, and why that didn't happen. We're going to take a look at that and see how people have made their decisions. And I'm going to equate that with some other things that I've read. So you can email me at edwarddentzel@reagan.com, and you can follow me on Twitter, Dentzel Domain, all one word, no space in between. Just on a side note, I see Ben Carson has finally decided that he's going to drop out, and I think that's good for everybody, including himself. He seemed to be just going through the motions anyway. So I need to mention that, and don't want to touch upon it too much because I have other things to say. I get started with this discussion, with this show today, thinking back to what I thought was going to happen going back to last year. My expectations, what I thought I knew about conservatives, about conservative media, Fox News, all of these different websites that I go to, Breitbart, DrudgeReport.com, etc. What I thought I knew was that, and especially considering all of the different people who were running. Remember, Scott Walker, Bobby Jindal, Rick Perry, all of these guys that I guess we've long forgotten about. It's funny, they drop out and they just disappear. Look at Carly Fiorina. What's she been doing? Jeb Bush, since he dropped out. I haven't seen a story about him, and that's the way it's been for all of these people pretty much who have dropped out, I guess except for Chris Christie, who was standing behind Donald Trump a few nights ago. But remember all of we were talking about this deep bench. Remember that? About a year ago? Our anticipations is who was going to be running, and everybody was pretty pleased, it seemed. You're going to get a little bit more of an establishment person like Jeb Bush. You're going to have the governor of a blue state, Scott Walker, who's been doing nice work there. You have Ted Cruz, who is probably going to run, a maverick. No, not John McCain. In the Senate. Marco Rubio, rumors out there that he was going to run. There was a lot to be happy about. All right, and I think your average conservative out here with the understanding was, you know what, it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be interesting to hear what Rush, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Ann Coulter, the rest of them, Glenn Beck, who are they going to be pumping up? What are they going to be saying about the different candidates? And our expectations were that Jeb Bush would probably, hopefully he wouldn't do well. And there was a couple others we hoped wouldn't do well. But we thought that all of those people would be behind guys who have experience, have shown their conservatism, not totally conservative on every issue, but everybody seemed to be pretty happy. That was my observation. Going back a year ago, March 2015. And we were talking about how no matter which person we pick, look how much younger that person was going to be than whoever the Democrats won. We were thinking that Hillary Clinton would probably maybe go unchallenged. There'd be that contrast, of course, with Benghazi. The email scandal was starting to build up. We thought, all right, this is our chance. This is really our chance. 2016, we got a hold of the Senate, hold of the House. We got this deep bench that's going to be running. I think we're going to be pretty pleased with probably whoever runs. Weren't giving Jeb Bush, for example. He was the main enemy back then at the time. Much of a chance, even though there's just some, you never know what can happen. And then all it took for this coalition of different people, of conservatives, both regular conservatives, everyday conservatives, and conservative media, all it took to break it up was one guy jumping into the race. And so I stand here today, a year later, and I'm wondering, was that all fake? Was all that excitement that we had a year ago about the primary season and how we're going to have all these debates and we're going to have like 15 people running? Of course, at that time, a lot of them had not said they're running yet, but there were rumors, there's expectations. I can remember saying a lot of nice things about Scott Walker. I remember saying a lot of nice things about Ted Cruz and some of the others. And saying, this is going to be good. This is going to be very, very interesting. And then all it took was for one guy to jump into the race, and a bunch of people forgot those other guys were even running. That's the truth. Now, to hear some of them say it, and to hear Donald Trump say it, the reason that happened is because the rest of those people were not serious about one topic, and that topic was immigration. And I think that to this day, that is still what motivates many Trump supporters. Even though immigration was always going to be a topic in this season, in this election season, and it had been a topic before Donald Trump jumped in. And because there are a lot of conservatives who are concerned about it to this day who aren't Donald Trump supporters. So when that happened, I think I'm 45 years old. I've been listening to talk radio. I had listened to talk radio. Of course, I don't do it now, given me doing my show. But reading out there and just catching some snippets, just doing research for the show because research is allowed. It was fairly quickly, no, let's do it this way. I thought what I knew about talk radio over my prior years of listening, that Donald Trump would jump into this, and given his prior liberal stances on everything, that not just the candidates, but those that we regular people have been following for years would attack Donald Trump as well. Not just because he's Donald Trump, and not necessarily because he had all these liberal positions, and not just because, he went whole birther with Barack Obama and everything. And none of that. I mean, some of it, yeah. But just because there was a wide array of people, men and one woman, who were already running and who had pretty good conservative bona fides. Not perfect, but pretty dang good. That, I think, was the average. That was the expectation, I think. And dare I say it, that expectation makes a lot of sense. All right, makes a lot of sense. But what happened? What happened was this. Donald Trump came in, and what I think happened was very early on, many of these our conservative media leaders discovered, you know what? Donald Trump drives viewers. He drives listeners. I talk about Donald Trump. I write about Donald Trump. And suddenly, my blog is getting more attention. Suddenly, I'm getting more listeners to my show. Suddenly, the numbers are up at Fox News and elsewhere if they talk about Donald Trump. And those leaders put their business models in front of what they've been talking about for decades. All right? So they embraced Donald Trump coming into the race, just throwing out everything that they said in the months leading up to him jumping into the race. And it's from there that this fracture has continued to widen to the point that it is today. To the point where you have a bunch of people who are now total anti-Trump people who will not vote for him. I mean, we'll see. I mean, if he gets the nomination, we'll see how many of those people stick to their word. I know that I'm going to stick to it because that's what I do. We'll see how many of those people stick to it. But that's where the fracture began. It was not with the people. It was with the media. And I'm not talking MSNBC, CNN, and all those losers. I'm talking under our own umbrella. And to this day, you can read all sorts of places where people are just disgusted. And they realize that they were fooled for years regarding this. Now, why do I think that they did it? Why did they shift allegiances? Are they that cheap to do that? I don't think that's it. My personal opinion is, and I've told you recently, I think they did it because terrestrial radio is on it, for example, and that's the main driver of political or conservative discourse in this country is talk radio. Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Glenn Beck, and the rest of them. Mark Levin, and whoever else you can think of that you may run into. Like I said, I don't even listen to it anymore. And I haven't listened to it for a few years. But those people embraced Donald Trump just because of allegedly him getting it, giving the media a hard time. But really, I think it came down to business models. But terrestrial radio, because it drives conservative thought, is on its way out. All right? It's on its way out. And I think they saw this as a way to continue to remain relevant and to keep up those viewers. As I think I pointed out when I talked about this, and I didn't talk about it necessarily in this context, but last week, I said, you have to remember something. The United States population has gone up 30 million since 20 years ago, whereas people listening to radio numbers have not gone up. They've not gone up as regular radio, terrestrial radio. Now, internet radio, I can just tell you from Red State Talk Radio, our numbers go up by double digits every month. But in terrestrial radio, the numbers aren't going anywhere. People are tuning out. Not because of the programs. It's just people have more choices now. Just like in cable. Cable numbers, TV show numbers have been going down for years. Why? People have more choices in entertainment now. All right. So them embracing Donald Trump back last summer was an effort to do that. But I think they did it thinking that somewhere down the road they'd be able to control him. That somewhere down the road that he would flame out. But they had done so much for him that they thought, well, he'll just run out on his own. And he hasn't. And I think this is the reason to this day a lot of them continue to support him because they don't want to show why they did that. They don't want to show why they supported him last summer, that it was all for just business reasons. Because they can't say they didn't know what he's about. Because everybody knew what he was about. If I knew what Donald Trump was about before he jumped into the presidential race, Rush Limbaugh and every other conservative talk show host out there knew. And they were going, I think, take him out until they found out that, man, this guy really drives ratings. That is how we've gotten to this course. But there's another point to this as well. And this was, so that's where the little crack began. We had this great field. One guy jumps in, and then suddenly all these people who were so excited about the field could say nothing but bad things about the field. That's what also ticks me off. Suddenly Scott Walker isn't conservative enough. Oh, what he did in Wisconsin doesn't matter. Working his butt off up there. Recalls and everything, just threw him out. Just didn't give him any attention whatsoever. Yeah, I know Trump can drive ratings, but you know what? It wouldn't hurt for them to have Scott Walker on a show once in a while, you know? And said, to this day, Donald Trump, I heard the figure, gets 60 times more media coverage than the rest of the candidates combined. Like I said, it's all driven by ratings, their coverage. To a guy who, well, we know who he is. We know who he is. So, I add this to, there's another point to this as well. And this also goes back to the conservative leadership that we've had for years. I was reading this, there was a guy wrote an article at ricochet.com, just a regular average guy, not somebody famous, well-known conservative, and he's a Trump supporter. And it's a long, long, long thing that he wrote detailing why he is a Trump supporter. And he calls himself a conservative. And I did not print it out. But let's just say that we have created... See, You know, we always talk about on the right how nobody ever wants to call themselves a liberal anymore. It's a progressive. We have demonized that word to the point where most Democrats, although they know that, they don't want to call themselves that. They'll call themselves, socialist. I mean, that's how bad it's gotten. They'll default to socialist before they call themselves a liberal. They'll default to a progressive before they call themselves a liberal. Whereas it's kind of gone the opposite way. Even though Barack Obama won the presidency twice, nobody is afraid of calling themselves a conservative. More to the point, there are people who aren't conservative. I'm not saying they're flaming liberals. There are people who call themselves conservatives and aren't. They aren't. And they'll do that simply because they don't want to call themselves a moderate. They don't want to call themselves something else. And frankly, even as much as Hollywood and other places have tried to demonize the conservative name, it's a source of pride for us to call ourselves that. And so we have had people who have jumped onto our side who are maybe a conservative on a couple issues, but overall, if conservativereview.com was giving them a rating, they'd probably be down around 50-40%. This is who this guy is that wrote this article, claiming he's a conservative and then defending Trump and giving all these reasons of way the United States should be, and I would say only 20% of it is conservative ideas. I'll give you an example. And this is something that I'm not sure a lot of people understand. But it's very, very subtle. What is a statement that I've made recently on this show regarding what goes on in the United States? It's not original, but I've repeated it a couple times. We are a nation of laws, not of men. Okay? We do not shift our belief system according to what necessarily people's needs are or wants are. We have a laws, and there are a way to repeal those laws, and there are a way to pass laws. We have a constitution that was there at the beginning. It's not like we all wake up each day and figure out, well, what are the laws for today? And we just kind of say, well, I'm going to make my own laws today. I'm going to speed. I'm going to go 100 miles an hour, and I'm going to jaywalk. We don't do that. We realize that there are laws that you're supposed to follow. If you don't like them, there are ways to go about changing them. And if you think there should be more laws, you can do that too. Well, in this article, and this is what's so dangerous, and the point about it is so subtle that I'm sure, and I went through the comments section. There were several comments. Most of the people this is at ricochet.com blasting this guy for what he wrote. Some liked it. Most people did not. Not one of them picked up on what I saw. They went into the political issues. This guy said in his article, the government's job is to put the citizens and the nation first. Most people, if you told an average person on the street that, they'd say, yeah, that's true. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's what we want. I know that's what a lot of people want, but that is not the reason the United States was founded. Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington did not believe in putting citizens first. You know what comes first in our country? Constitution comes first. All right? That is where the government gets the power that it has, or its power is restricted. Remember, negative rights, positive rights versus negative rights. It is not in the government's business to put citizens first. The government's first job is to follow the Constitution. And you know what? Sometimes that may mean not putting some citizens first. But that is something that most people don't understand. And dare I say it, they don't agree with it. In fact, we have too many people who are willing to throw the Constitution out the window to put citizens first. And that's the way that I look at entitlements. That's putting citizens first, not the Constitution first. Because putting citizens first, I don't know. Who knows what can happen from day to day? Because you know what? Citizens' needs are wide and what am I trying to say here? They have a lot of different choices from day to day. A lot of needs from day to day. And frankly, because of our human nature, a lot of our wants and needs are not constitutional. Right? Just because citizens think that we should be able to murder people doesn't mean that's the way it should be. Now, I suppose if they want to go out through the political process and try to figure that out, how to, repeal murder laws, they can do that. But I think it would certainly be against the Constitution, and you might have to put a little amendment in there or something to make murder legal. But do you notice that? Do you notice that? The government's first job is loyalty is not to the citizens and the nation. It is to the Constitution. But here's a person who calls himself a conservative that will write that. And you'll have a bunch of people who will give him a hard time about what he wrote and never pick that out. This is another reason that conservative media has failed. And it's one of the reasons, that this crack started to happen last summer. We have a bunch of conservatives who don't know what the hell they're talking about. Now see, Rush Limbaugh and those guys, they're not going to say that because they need their millions of listeners. I'm going to tell you that because when I come to this microphone, I see myself as a teacher, not as an entertainer. It may be entertaining at times. I may even be funny at times. But as a teacher, I have to put the facts first. First. This isn't Jon Stewart, where entertainment is first. I know he's not on there anymore. When he was doing his show, every story was about where do we find the comedic side of this, even if we have to stretch the truth. I don't look at it that way. I look at my research and say, what do I think my listeners need to know? And dare I say it, I always tell all of you, if you doubt me, go look it up for yourself. Because I tell you where I get these stories. It's not hidden sources. I don't have my own deep throat deep inside the government. I'm going to the same websites you are. But this lack of detail on the conservative side has also hurt us. And I now see why it's hurt us, because those people who have been leading us for decades were not concerned about teaching. They said they were. But the first time some adversity happened with a liberal, Donald Trump, jumping into it, they threw their support behind him for ratings. So it must have been about entertainment first, not really about conservatism first. Because if it was about conservatism first, they would have shunned him, they would have blasted him, and they would have continued to support all of these other people who did some nice conservative work. Whereas Donald Trump has never done anything conservative. So that's a big part of it as well. We have a bunch of people who are now supporting Donald Trump who think they're conservative. And what they do is, as this guy does in this article, totally ignore. I mean, this thing that he wrote, 1,000 words, 1,500 words maybe, totally ignoring everything that Donald Trump has done in the last 15 years regarding his statements about a variety of topics. and saying how the good part of them, the liberal part, was the good part. Totally ignored it. But this guy calls himself a conservative. We have too many people like that. But I got to go to the break. You've been listening to the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio.
Real radio for real Americans. Red State Talk Radio.
This is Brigitte Gabrielle from actforamerica.org. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do not go to bed every night absolutely fatigued from trying to restore America from the destruction that is taking place, then you're simply not working hard enough. Arm yourself with knowledge so that you too can act for America by listening to Red State Talk Radio. Red State Talk Radio, the dominant force in conservative internet talk radio. RedStateTalkRadio.com. Lock it in and rip off the knob.
I can't defend my family because I live in Chicago.
I am free to defend my family with my AR-15 or handgun because I live in Wyoming.
I can't even protect myself if I'm attacked because I live in D.C.
I carry my 9mm in my purse anywhere I go in Texas.
I can't protect my small retail shop here in Brooklyn.
We keep guns behind the counter at our shop in Oklahoma. Only had to show it once.
Do you see a pattern?
Demand equal gun rights in America. Go to saf.org now.
My name is Courtney Luster. I'm 21, well-educated, and unemployed American. I happen to be black, so I'm in the highest unemployment segment of the population, black youth unemployment. Notice I don't refer to myself as African American because I'm an American first. I'm a proud American who happens to have black skin. So please explain to me where African American fits into that equation. You're right, it doesn't. For over 60 years, the Democrat Party has used my fellow black Americans to maintain power in the federal and state governments. Why do I say that? Because I read history. While many of my friends are watching mindless videos, I choose to listen to Red State Talk Radio. Why? Because I want to educate myself, not entertain myself. Red State Talk Radio, America's premier conservative talk radio network. Hey, all you black American youth, be a Frederick Douglass Republican, not an Al Sharpton race pimp. Educate yourself. Listen to RedStateTalkRadio.com.
This is Michael Cutler, retired senior special agent with the former INS, the Immigration and Naturalization Service. You should know that I'm also a lifelong Democrat, but ladies and gentlemen, the mainstream media has completely failed the American people. That's why, despite being a lifelong Democrat, I listen to Red State Talk Radio, the dominant force in conservative internet talk radio. Lock it in and rip off the knob.
We are back at the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio. I want to take you to the next level now, okay? We went back to the beginning. The expectations we had this time last year. The crack that developed. Why I think that crack developed. The kinds of people that had become attracted to Donald Trump, calling themselves some way conservative, but every time they open their mouth to write something, it shows they aren't. All right, ignoring a lot of what he believes and what he said and what he's done. Somewhat, not even just cherry picking, but totally ignoring everything pretty much. So let's take it to the next part of this, where, once again, closer to where we are now. And I bring this up because a friend of mine, once again, that same friend of mine that I always talk about, don't mention his name because at this point I don't think he wants to be involved with this show. He's a conservative, but, you can't do this show. Let's put it this way. You can't do this show and, how do I put this? Have a regular job like on the side or something like that. That's outside of politics. You know what I mean? And especially, the business that my friend has been involved in over the years. I don't know if you want to get into something that like politics that can be so divisive, right? I think you understand what I'm saying. But this came up with this friend of mine yesterday in talking to him. And this is something that was expressed at Ricochet.com by this Trump supporter that, I was asked to hold my nose for Bob Dole and Mitt Romney, and Mitt Romney or Donald Trump isn't any worse than those guys. And see, this is almost exactly what my friend said to me. And also what my friend was trying to say is, my attitude has always been, and this guy was into politics before I was. He was the guy who got me into politics, like when we were 20 years old at Grove City College. And his attitude was always, you know what, if that's who the party's going to nominate, then it's my duty to go and support the nominee. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of the argument that many Trump supporters are, I think, kind of making now. And it's so it's created this kind of very weird social dynamic in that for a while, Donald Trump was trying to blackmail us with a third-party effort. Now, his people are trying to we can kind of blackmail him with the Never Trump hashtag. Mm-hmm. So it depends where you see yourself in the process, whether you're the favorite or the underdog, as to what you want to do. Well, as I told this friend of mine, I don't have a blood oath with the Republican Party. I don't have a blood oath to do that. If the party makes a bad decision, I don't have to go along with it. I don't know why they should be able to blackmail me and scaring me about Hillary Clinton when I'm not so sure that Donald Trump would be any better. And dare I say it, as I told this friend of mine, and this is what I would tell this guy who wrote this article at Ricochet.com, is to compare John McCain, Mitt Romney, Bob Dole, and dare I say it, once again, this guy was a Trump supporter who had a lot of bad things to say about George W. Bush, which is once again something I don't quite understand. To compare people showing up to vote for Mitt Romney and those guys is quite a bit different to me than Donald Trump. I don't think those comparisons, if you're running into that out there, you have to portray it this way. The difference that I've always had with John McCain, Mitt Romney, despite voting for both of them in the presidential election in 2008 2012, I voted for George W. Bush twice. I voted for Bob Dole in 1996, despite not having some political similarities with them, was that the difference was just political. I do not believe that John McCain, I know he can be nasty at times. I don't believe he's necessarily a bad guy. All right, I don't necessarily believe that. I know he can be nasty and everything, but it's just in the context, I think, of him wanting to get his way. And frankly, on a lot of things, I'm glad John McCain hasn't gotten his way, and I was happy about that. But I don't believe John McCain's character necessarily is in question, even though nobody's perfect. Same way with Mitt Romney, same way with George W. Bush, same way with Bob Dole. And that's why it always comes back to the point of for me, with Donald Trump, I think he's a bad guy. I think he is a bad guy. And I tried to explain that to this friend of mine, that to compare those other men, Bob Dole, war hero, John McCain, war hero, Mitt Romney, good family man, kids, respected, not conservative. George W. Bush straightened his life out after being an alcoholic and having some wild days early on, straightening his life out. I think that those guys showed that they could stand pressure and survive under that pressure and do the good things for their family. Once again, not conservative. But character matters. Donald Trump has no character. All right? Donald Trump has no character. Simply put, all you have to do is look at who he picked to be his national spokesman, that Katrina Pearson, is all you need to know. And when you give somebody who has no character the power of the presidency, it can be very bad. Now, you may say, well, Hillary Clinton's the same thing. I realize that. The difference is, although Hillary has horrible character, and I'm not going to vote for her, but just because she has bad character doesn't mean I vote for the other person who has no character either. That's kind of a weird dynamic. That's weird. We can't vote for Hillary Clinton because she has bad character. Well, then why do you want me to vote for Donald Trump? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. They are shady, shady people. And dare I say it, if Donald Trump was running as a Democrat, all these conservatives who now have them on their shows like Sean Hannity and others, if he were a Democrat, nothing different, they'd be saying, no, you can't vote for that guy. Right? And they'd be bringing up all this stuff. He has no character. But now that he's on the Republican side, we have to embrace him. That makes no sense to me. If Donald Trump was just a liberal, and somehow he got into the race and was winning on liberal causes and had been that way his whole life and was being genuine about it, you know what? I just have to live with it. I guess that must be where the party is. And I would hold my nose and vote for him. But I do it because I thought, as a character person, honesty, values, integrity, the way he runs his own life to that point, despite being liberal, I just have to live with it. But that's not who he is. And that's what drives so many conservatives nuts. It's also why we as conservatives who worry about character and are true conservatives, when we see these Trump people come out and explain why they're voting for Donald Trump, it's funny how they just leave stuff out. This guy wrote 1,500 words, totally didn't say anything about the KKK, didn't say anything about crony capitalism, nothing. It's like it doesn't even exist. And when people do that, I get suspicious. I start thinking, maybe this person isn't who he portrays himself to be. That he leaves out such obvious information. There's obviously something going on here, which is, it comes back to the point of these people who are, Donald Trump isn't who he says he is, and his supporters aren't who they say they are. And dare I say it, I think they are a group of people who want the government to put citizens first and not the Constitution first. There is a difference. I know that in our everyday lives we kind of think the same thing, but you know what? With our Constitution, you know what that means? Some citizens aren't going to get what they want. Their needs are not going to be met. That's just the way it goes. Now, if you want to amend it, you want to go through the process, you can do that. We can argue about the policy of it. But the Constitution always comes first. But it seems to me that there probably are a lot of true conservatives who can't see that fine line of distinction either. Now, taking this further, being that I mentioned Mitt Romney, now Mitt Romney is getting stabbed in the back for coming out today, and I don't know what he's going to say. And my friend and I had a short conversation about this. Once again, this is, are you a company man? Are you a Republican Party guy no matter what? Or are you going to take a look at the situation and say, well, maybe I can't be involved this time. Maybe I'm just going to have to pass. Because you see out there, and if my friend can explain, can say he feels like this, then I'm guessing there are many others that kind of see what Mitt Romney is going to do today. Once again, we don't know what he's going to say. You'll know by the time you hear this. That he's kind of undermining the front runner, and he's sour grapes on and on and on. To which I say, it's about time somebody stands up and becomes the adult in the room. I'd have a problem with it if I thought that Donald Trump was a good guy and he just happened to be winning because he's liberal. I would have a problem with it. But my concern, once again, with Donald Trump is about putting all that power in that guy's hands. And I don't necessarily mean nuclear strikes, necessarily. You'll see, he'll run this the same way he ran his corporations, or same way he does, and all the shady things that he did over the years. That's what you're going to get in the presidency. I just don't like how so many people dismiss that and say that, well, that's not possible. See, Hillary Clinton could do it and damage her name and damage Democrats' name, and hopefully Republicans could continue to take over these states, as we've been doing. Donald Trump does it, and it only screws us. I don't see how people don't see that. Mitt Romney, I think, does see that. And he's trying to be the adult in the room. And as I told my friend, what I'd like to see, as much as I don't like Mitt Romney, for his lack of conservatism, it would be nice if he could get Cruz, Rubio, and Kasich, and even Carson, even though he left yesterday, if he could get those four guys in a room, just the five of them, no advisors, no spokespeople, nothing. No recordings, nothing. Get these guys in a room and just say, here's the deal, guys. All of us in this room have character. All right? We do. And we know a lack of character when we see it. Now, I personally might not believe some of that. You know what I've said about Ben Carson. John Kasich does not have the greatest reputation outside of being on TV. But if Mitt Romney wants to get these guys together and say, you know what, here's what we need to do. We're looking at a bad guy. You guys are all running against a bad guy. And there's more to this than one of you winning and beating up everybody else. And that's teamwork. I know that's not respected too much in politics because it is pretty much every man or woman for himself. But I think that Mitt Romney could get away with that. I think he has the character to do that. As a former presidential nominee, he knows the terrain. And this just shows you that I can go along with somebody who isn't conservative as long as I think their character is in the right place. So don't tell me that I should that, this is personal. It's just, well, you're just doing this. It's more than Donald Trump not being conservative. Because I can get with less than conservative people. The kinds of people that bug me are the guy who wrote this article at ricochet.com and totally ignore all of the points that are the biggest deals about Donald Trump. And I wish I would have printed it out. I could have. I guess I'm going to start doing that. I guess. I printed out that Laura Ingraham article from a couple days ago. Once again, kind of the same thing. And then I printed out something that I'm not going to get to today. So I've started to do that. I should have printed that, a blog post at ricochet.com by one of the members there. So I don't see this, some people, like I said, my friend of mine, sees this as Mitt Romney undermining the process. It all depends on what you want. If you're just willing to follow the rules to oblivion, then I guess he is undermining. I guess that, he is undermining if that's what you believe. But nobody has a blood oath with the Republican Party. Nobody has that. Nobody has that. And and this is why I've exactly told you, I don't mind losing if it's because of principle. My principles, I'm willing to live and die by them. That's the only reason they're worth having. Right? But it seems to me others have principles and they fluctuate. And their concern is more about winning than their integrity. And what they really believe about how the world should be. I know you're never going to like any particular person, but there's nothing, as I've told you, I think voting in this country is totally overrated. It is, these people that wear those I voted stickers, they are the pathetic of the pathetic. And I have people I know who do that. It is the lowest form of being a citizen. That's like saying you took a math class in high school and it was Math 101. Okay. It doesn't take any effort to vote. So my attitudes toward voting anyway. I know it's part of our process. I know it's important. I don't want dictators. But I also know that nobody has there's no agreement as a citizen says you have to vote. If it was so important that we vote, there would have been a constitutional amendment making sure that everybody votes, every adult votes. We don't have that. We don't have that. You vote if you're interested. You vote if you're motivated. Otherwise, I'd prefer you just stay out of it. And that's where I am. For all the, we started this 50 minutes ago. This is where I am. So that's how the crack started, how it continues to fester, and why I just don't see where this is going to get any better anytime soon. So I just wanted to go over it with all of you today and express some of my principles as well. And you can go look at that article on ricochet.com and check it out for yourself. You can email me at edwarddentzel@reagan.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Dentzel domain, all one word, no space in between. You can go to edwarddentzel.com where you can find all of my old Red State Talk Radio shows. You can also find those shows at YouTube, SoundCloud, Podomatic, Podbean. You can go to edwarddentzel.com/book where you can download the first chapter of my next novel called The Comebacks. You can do that for free. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. And that's the show, I guess. Thanks for listening tonight. You've been listening to the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio.